Confidence is a conditioning. In order to develop confidence, there's a criteria for the conditioning. A conditioning is something that you do over and over again on a specific task. So that way you become more acclimated and more proficient at it. If you think about it, you have an area that you are like really good at, you're really confident at because you've subjected yourself to those conditions so many times that where other people are like, dude, how do you do that? And you're like, I don't know. I can't really explain it. You can't explain it because you've just put yourself over and over and over again in those conditions. And that's why you're able to bring consistent results. Now, on the flip side, think about areas that you're not good at and you really shy away from. And the reason why you shy away from those areas is because when the conditions arose, you bailed out. You found another path. You lean more toward the things that you're conditioned with because you lack the confidence and didn't have a belief in yourself that you could bring about the results that you normally would in other situations. Case in point, I have salespeople who, when they're at the store, are like class clowns. They're productive, they're funny, they're witty, they're charming. Yet when I see them in a social setting, like a party, they're like a shell of the person that I see at the store. Is like, is this the same person? Why is that? Because they haven't conditioned themselves for the conditions that they're in. And I use that as an example because there are certain areas that you lack conditioning in. And the only way that you're going to get better and more proficient is you have to be willing to subject yourself to those conditions, even though they feel awkward, even though you look dumb, even though it's embarrassing, even though you can't bring the results that you normally would in other areas that you're comfortable with. It's because of the conditioning. I've seen salespeople who were really good at face to face with customers. Yet when they get on the phone, they just nut up. Like they will avoid the phone at all cost. They just don't want anything to do with the phone. And I'm like, why is that? Like you wouldn't if a customer hits you with an objection and you're standing face to face, you know how to handle that situation. Yet if a customer hits you with an objection over the phone, which should be in logic, it should be easier because they're not face to face. It's like you totally forget how to handle it. It's because of the conditioning. Is it because you can't see them? Because if you FaceTimed them, you probably wouldn't be good at that either. Dude, I remember when we switched over and started selling on Zoom. It's a whole different skill set. I developed, I don't know, 21, 22 years of a certain way of selling. And now I had to do it over a camera. From the outside, it seems like it's the same thing, right? It seems like it's no big deal. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. And I try to tell people who come on board with me, I say, look, dude, I'm telling you, it's totally different. They're like, ah. And then when they get it, they're like, whew, it is. It's because of the conditioning. You have to condition yourself over and over and over again. On the other side, I've seen salespeople who were really good on the phone. I mean, they can handle themselves on the phone. They can set the appointments. Their ratios for setting appointments are through the roof. Yet when the customer comes to the store, they can't convert. They can't convert. Why? Because they lack the conditioning. They repeatedly subject themselves to what they're good at on the phone. Yet when the customer comes face to face, because they haven't been able to produce the same sort of results and it's a different skill set, they don't know how to handle themselves. Here's what I don't understand. A salesperson like that will make all the calls, will set all the appointments, and will split their commission when a customer comes into the store instead of subjecting themselves to the conditions so that way they can get the conditioning. There are people from the outside who say, oh, I'd be good in sales because I can talk. Yeah, but you can't convert. And that's a totally different skill set. And I've seen people who are really, really good talkers. But if they haven't subjected themselves to the conditioning of being able to convert, face some of that objection, overcome the objections, and push forward against the resistance, they fade out of the business because they thought all it took was all I got to do is talk. Hell no, it's a lot more than that. Now, proper conditioning for better confidence has three criteria: it's consistency, it's strength, and it's stamina. And you got to have all three. So, the consistency, you've got to have thousands of experiences over and over again to begin to categorize certain situations so they become more familiar with you. The consistent reps is what makes you familiar with the ill feelings that you have. And the more you subject yourself to these feelings, the quieter those feelings get. You'll still feel them, but you're familiar and you don't fade to them. You just learn to move them or you channel them as fuel to bring about the results. So you need thousands and thousands of consistent reps to develop that experience bank. And through the experience bank, you've had so many different scenarios, things become a little bit more familiar for you. In addition to consistency, for proper conditioning for developing more confidence, you also need strength. That means that you have to add, just like going to the weight room, you can't work on upper body all the time, and you're going to have weak legs. It's total. And that's what you have to do. You need strength. It's adding tension each time through the consistent reps. And so when you feel that little bit of a pushback, that little bit of internal negotiation, you push forward just a little bit. You just inch forward just a little bit more. You push into that tension. And when you do, you get better at it. You get stronger. It's like adding that 2.5 pounds to the weight bar. Just a little bit, just a little added weight. And the third criteria for conditioning for better confidence is you got to have stamina. You got to have mental, physical, and emotional stamina because you've got to be able to hang in there. It's been a long day. You've got to be able to mentally hang in there and not get out of character, even though the situation is frustrating, even though it looks like it's all lost, that you hang in there so that way you can bring about a productive result. The only time it's a waste of your time is if you didn't give the full effort. It's when you pulled up, when you snapped because you didn't develop the stamina. Look, you don't run a marathon on day one. You start with a half mile, then you go to a mile, then you go to 2, then you go to 4. It's a conditioning, it's a gradualness of it all. But every single time, it's the reps, it's the strength, it's the stamina. I'm putting that in. It's those three criteria. You don't go into the weight room and instantly squat 525. It's a conditioning. You may start with the bar, then you go to 95, then you go to 145, then you start adding plates from there. It's a conditioning. It's an increase in weight. It's the reps. It's the strength. It's the stamina all in one. Look, you got to get worse before you'll ever get better. And through consistently getting better every single day, that's the way you'll become great. Keep it simple, keep it moving, never settle, keep selling. Remember, the greatest sale that you will ever make is to sell you on you because you're more than enough. Keep it simple, keep it moving, never settle, keep selling. Stay in the sales life.